Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Talk Show. I'm Carla Elizondo. We are continuing the reading of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. We are on Chapter 4, the first principle in the Science of Getting Rich, and we're continuing where we left off last time. Alrighty, ready, Freddies? I think we are. Wallace Wattles continues. I have said that an individual gets rich by doing things in a certain way. In order to do so, you must become able to think in a certain way. To think in a certain way. Remember, the way we think dictates the way we feel. The way we feel dictates the way we act. The way we act dictates all the results in our life. So, in order to do so, to think in a certain way, your way of doing things is in direct result of the way you think about things. That's what I just said. Okay, great. So in order to do so, to think in a certain way, you must become able to continuously think in that certain way. Your way of doing things is the direct result of the way you think about things, right? All of the results in life, the way you get up, the way you eat, the way you go to work every day is a direct result of the way you think. To do things in a way you want to do them, you will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. Do you think the way you want to think? Ask yourself that right now. Do you think the way you want to think? Or are you thinking in a way that you don't want to think? And if you're like, I don't know, Carla, I'll tell you. Do you feel the way you want to feel? Or do you feel the way you don't want to feel? That is in direct relation to the way you're thinking, because the way you think dictates the way you feel. So I'll ask you again, are you thinking the way you want to think? Or are you feeling the way you want to feel? If the answer is no, investigate it first. The easiest way is to, what's the polar opposite? Or how would you rather have it be? How would you rather have it be? Write it down. Take 15 minutes for yourself. Journal. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? So to do things in a way you want to do them, you will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. This is the first step toward getting rich. In any area. Remember, rich is not just monetary money. It's rich in love, rich in health, rich in community. How does that feel, right? Rich in time. So to do things in a way you want to do them, you will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. This is the first step toward getting rich. To think what you want to think is to think truth, regardless of appearance. So remember, whatever you believe is true for you, you're right, period. That's your reality. That's your truth. That's why the older I get, the less I argue with people, because their truth is right. To them, they're right. From their vantage point, from their window, right? We're all on different floors in different rooms, and we're looking out of our window. And we dictate life, truth, everything that is fact based on that view. But we all have different views. And as we grow and we learn and we gain different consciousness, our view changes. We go to different floors, mainly higher floors, hopefully, and our view changes. Does your view change regularly, or are you stuck in the same view you've always been in? And here's another question. If you feel resistance, if you're triggered, if you're bothered, if you're irritated, that is a fine indicator, my friend, that you have old thought beliefs that you're outgrowing, or that you need to look up, dust off, look at. Because if you were at peace with that, whatever anybody else said wouldn't matter. It wouldn't bother you. It would not irritate you. Because if you are firm in your truth and your belief, it wouldn't even bother you what anybody else said. But if you find yourself being triggered, irritated, contentious, it's because you just have a belief you need to relook at, reassess. That's all. Reappraise it. You have the natural and inherent power to think what you want to think. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He discovered that even in a concentration camp, amidst the most atrocious, disgusting, violent, tragic circumstances, nobody, none of the guards, those abusive people, could make him think anything he didn't want to think. You have the natural and inherent power to think what you want to think, but it requires far more effort to do so than it does to think the thoughts which are suggested by appearance. It takes no work, zero, to just accept what's out there, be it radio, music, social media, news, anything, billboards, what other people say, the collective, whatever your tribe or collective is. That's easy. It's hard to think for yourself, to take the information that you get and see how it sits. Does it feel right? And it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means you have to personally filter it. We all have our own little filter tray that we don't use. Those are our intellectual or higher faculties inside. And a lot of people first aren't even aware that they have them and don't even know how to use them, and then don't use them, and then wonder why life is a mess, individually and collectively. We have the natural and inherent power to think what we want to think, but it requires far more effort to do so than it does to think thoughts which are suggested by appearance. Thoughts are just given to us, ideas. To think according to appearance is easy. To think according to appearance is easy. Yes, it's easy. Well, Carla, don't be an idiot. It's right in front of you. That's evidence, and it's solid, and it's matter, and it's in front of you. No shit, Sherlock. That's easy. What's hard is to live in the place before, the preview. Where do you think, Sherlock, that came from? It was first a thought, an idea that was built on and that came to fruition. So if you want to change anything, you can't change what already is. You have to go up to the roots and start changing your thinking. Then eventually, and yes, it takes patience, kids. It takes patience. And mainly I'm talking to myself. But we want it so quick, we rail against no, I don't like the quick success. It's like, but we fight and we kick and scream and tantrum against what is, not wanting to take the time to think for ourselves, reassess, take a critical, objective look at what we're thinking. What the heck are we putting in our minds? And that's the result and that results in our outside world and our surroundings. To think according to appearance is easy. To think truth, regardless of appearance, is laborious and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work you have to perform. Remember that quote. 2% of people actually think. 3% of people think they think. 95% of people would rather die than think. And I've been working on, like a new website and doing a bunch of stuff. And when you're out of your comfort zone, you're really growing and stretching mentally. You're studying for a test, you're doing something, and you're really working the wheels. You're really learning something new. It's so exhausting. It's so exhausting. You just want to take a nap. Mental exhaustion is a whole different type of tired. And I know probably all of you can agree. But that's when you think. I said this the other day. I need to think about that. Let me think on it. I need to take some time with that. We truly have to take time to think. And it's not fun. We don't look forward to it because it's uncomfortable. It's not what we're used to. We're used to just relying on what we already know, or what other people hand us, or just what we've been programmed with. Old thought patterns. That's easy. That's staying in our comfort zone. There is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. That's so funny to me. I don't know why. So there is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearance. When we can't see it yet. It's the best example is if I were to take the best soil, the best fertilizer, and take some apple seeds and plant them. and just planted them and watered them, and maybe one little sprig popped up. And I had guests over and I said, look at my beautiful apple tree. They'd be like, girl, there ain't no apple tree there. But this is just a cute little example. But there is an apple tree. It just has not, the gestation period has not finished yet to sprout a whole, or a rose bush, whatever you want to call it. But we trust that because it's been proven. It's the law. It's Mother Nature. We trust that. But we're a part of Mother Nature. Why don't we trust it in us? What is the gestation period of a dream? Because those are seeds too. They're spiritual seeds. Your dreams, your desires, your hopes, your wants, your visions, your plans for the future. You're planting a seed and you're watering it every day through inspired action. It's not just dreaming, remember. We have to mold the two. We have to merge it and fuse it. And how you do that is you got to be in accord. So the idea is the spiritual seed, the dream, the hope. Everyone has dreams. One day, I have big dreams. You hear that, especially, I just experienced this, especially in Los Angeles. People have dreams and they talk. They're always going to do something. Up, 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 up. It's all cerebral, in your head. Lots of words, lots of thoughts, lots of ideas. Do you know how many ideas are out there? How come so few show up in the world? Because they don't add this part, the watering of it, putting it in their heart, impressing it over daily, over, really getting emotionally involved with it, getting into the spirit of it. And it doesn't matter why they're blocked. If they feel unworthy, if they caught up in their failures, if people, naysayers, the outside world holds them down, they might peacock all they want. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But nothing ever happens. Because they don't, in their heart of hearts, feel it or believe it. The truth, regardless of appearance, the truth will always come out. The truth will always come out. The truth is what's here. This is the truth. That's what always shows up, not this. All right. There is no labor from which most people shrink, as they do from the sustained consecutive thought. Okay, every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. This can only be prevented by holding the thought of the truth. Okay, so every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. This can only be prevented by holding the thought of the truth. Okay, I'm not getting that. Okay, every appearance in the visible world, my cell phone, every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. Okay. This can only be prevented. Oh, okay. Got it. So for example, I talked about the other day. So this iPhone, these are going to be obsolete. These are going to be obsolete one day. How is the next iteration? How is the next version of this cell phone going to manifest or become physical? If I just keep looking at this phone and the image is on my mind, there could be no other phone because all I'm seeing is this. I'm letting the outside physical representation of how the current iPhone right now is dictate. It sets the precedent. So I have to close my eyes and deny my five senses. Dream up a new way, a new image, because it's the image, then the physical. It's the unseen, then the seen. It's not the seen, then the unseen. That's truly Inside Talk Show, living from the inside out, not the outside in. This phone did not come to be from out here. This phone came to be from in here. Steve Jobs, the people at Apple, whoever, made it up. Okay. So every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. This can only be prevented. So you can only stop that by holding the thought of truth. And remember, you dictate that. What is true? What feels true? What do you want to be true? To look upon the appearance of disease will produce the form of disease in your own mind. Clearly, if you see someone sick, you'll think they're sick, which is the reality of the 3D world. And this is the toughest part. To look upon the appearance of disease will produce the form of disease in your own mind and ultimately in your body. Instead, you must hold the thought of the truth, which is that there is no disease. Disease is only an appearance, and the reality is health. Did I already read this? I feel like I have read this, but not on here, I don't think. Oh, maybe I read this in one of the first. Anyways. Disease is the only appearance and the reality is truth, right? Because health and sickness, like if a baby there's a malady, that's the exception to the rule of absolute health. Health is the rule. Dis-ease is the exception. Haven't we flipped that? So disease is only an appearance and the reality is health. To look upon the appearances of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your own mind. Instead, you must hold the truth that there is no poverty, there is only abundance. Because poverty is just a lack of abundance, and abundance is, period, nature. When is lack introduced? It's a thought. It's not the reality. It becomes a reality because we dwell in that thought. It requires power to think health when surrounded by appearances of disease, or to think riches in the midst of the appearance of poverty. We will never get out of poverty thinking that there's only poverty. You can't get poor enough to help the poor. Only rich people help the poor. Only abundance gets rid of poverty. And yes, there is poverty, but focusing on that will not get rid of it. That's the rub. Right? Sickness, we see sickness. Believing only in the sickness and having full, complete faith in what we see in the sickness is easy. What's hard is thinking health amidst sickness. What's going to get you healthy when you're sick? Not thinking of sick. How can you get healthy? How can we make this better? Goes back to whole solutions. Yes, there's problems and there's solutions. When there's a problem, are you going to complain and just focus on the problem? That's not going to fix it. That's easy. Any person can point out the obvious, the problem, the poverty, the sickness, the illness. Fabulous. Start a podcast. What's going to fix it? Focusing on abundance, on health, and those are all true too. But why do we have more faith in the sick and in poverty than we do in abundance and in health? Let's think about that. So it requires you to think health when surrounded by the appearance of disease, or to think riches in the midst of the appearance of poverty. But when you acquire this power, you become a mastermind. You can conquer fate. You can have what you want. This power can only be acquired by getting hold of the basic fact, which is behind all of appearance, that there is one thinking substance from which and by which all things are made. Then we must grasp the truth that every thought held in this substance becomes a form, and that a person can impress thoughts upon it so as to cause them to take form and become visible things. When we realize this, that everything that is seen first starts in thought, we lose all doubt and fear because we know that we can create what we want to create. We can get what we want to have and can become what we want to be. As a first step toward getting rich, we must believe the three fundamental statements given. Here they are, that are previously stated. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. You can form things in your thought, and by impressing thought upon formless substance can cause the thing you think about to be created. You must lay aside all other concepts of the universe, then this monastic one, You must dwell upon this until it is fixed in your mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these creed statements over and over. Fix every word upon your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe what they say. If a doubt comes to you, cast it aside as sin. Or just wrong thinking, man. I mean, that's the definition of their sin. Do not listen to arguments against this idea. Don't go to churches, lectures, talks, where a contrary concept of things is taught or preached. Do not read magazines or books which teach a different idea. If you get mixed up with your faith, all your efforts will be in vain. We had a good conversation this morning about serving the two masters. There's so many dualities that we can apply that to. Serving two masters. Pick a side of the road or you'll get run over, right? You don't want to be caught in the middle of the road, but we want to be in the middle of the road because we don't want to pick a side because we don't know which one we want. Stick to it. Like us, human beings, we have two parts of us. We have the seen, physical matter, and the unseen, the energetic or spiritual. There's two parts of us, the seen and the unseen. And it's both. It's both, just like anything else. And you have to be okay or get to some level of understanding of how both work, because that's what daily study is so important. That's why when I really started getting into this, I never turned back because it's like, I was ready for it when I got rid of all the other shenanigans. Because we can listen to so many things. There's so many truths. There's so many ideas, so many philosophies. And I realized, because I wanted to find the right one. But really, it's whatever feels right to you. Whatever feels right to you. Find a teacher you really like. Find a study group, a tribe, and just dedicate your life to it. And might change. You might do it for a few years and then you might change. But find something. Commit to daily study because you are studying something every day. It's a curriculum that's given to you by the outside world. It's the default. That's what you're studying daily. Believe me. You don't have to believe me. It's the truth. We're all on a program. Either you pick it or it's given to you. Good stuff, people. Good stuff. All right. Where did I leave off? Yeah. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll continue tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, everybody. As always, any questions, click the link in my bio. Very excited. Have a good one.